time ago. When I first started writing it, I wrote it as 10 short stories. And it took me it was almost 4 years of writing because I don't have time. I mean, you can see from the book that
Yeah.
I don't have time for anything, especially bathing. But, so I just wrote a little bit here and there, and I ended up with 10 short stories and a prologue and an epilogue. And my husband is a science writer, and I asked him if he could ask some of his contacts if he knew any agents that might be interested in my book. And he got a list of 4 or 5 agents, and one of them was a birder. And if any of you guys know birds, the Sibley Guide to Birds, which is like the new Peterson Guide, it's every birder in the world has one. And it turns out that my agent was his agent. And so I sent my 10 short stories to this guy, and he said, I really like them, but it's half a book. You can't do short stories, you have to expand it, you have to have an arc, the famous arc. And he said, if you can put 3 times the amount of effort that you've put into it already, he said, I can sell it. And I said, 3 times the amount of effort. But I waited until November when there aren't so many birds. The intake, it's always worse in the summer, then things start slacking off in the fall. And I waited until November, and then I just closed down for 8 months and wrote straight. And
was Flyaway the original title from the very beginning?
no, the original title was...
I hate cats.
You're on my A-list.
Big mouth list.
No, the original title was, each short story had a title, and crows, of course, they're my favorite, and so the original title was Biker Birds. I thought that's what crows are like. They're like this little untamed gang, and you can't tell a crow what to do. So.
Or a marketing person, evidently. Where did you write?
Where at my kitchen table.
Really?
Yes, with the parrots there. Because if I wrote inside, the parrots would sit there screaming my name and screaming, song lyrics and slogans, and I would never get anything done. So if I wrote right there with them, they'd come down and, every once in a while try and step on my computer or chew something up, but that was more manageable.
Blame the typos on that.
Yes, I did.
Do you have all your original books of all the bird entries that you have kept over the years?
I do.
How much?
We'll
We'll need them for the 60 minutes B-roll. I'm not kidding.
Well, you can lug them to the meeting
No,
place.
we'll bring 60 minutes up to your house.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yes, I have all these, all the records, all the notes.
And then your agent had an editor, Gail Winston.
He did. Actually, the book went to auction. There were a number of different publishers who were interested in it, and a couple of them actually drove up to my house.
And probably went back to the city.
They skidded out of the driveway. But I think, I think they might have come up because people who write memoirs these days, every once in a while, they'll sort of fib and not tell the real story. And I think they wanted to see if what I was saying was, So they only gave me, they called, and then they would call at night and then come up the next morning, so I didn't have time to grab all these wild birds and stick them in a cage. Anything like that.
And Gail Winston, the editor, was a nature lover or just a...
She was not necessarily a birder, but she loves animals. And while HarperCollins was bidding on my book, she actually took a trip to Africa and to go on safari. And she was mortified that she would be leaving without knowing the outcome of it. Because, once they start bidding,
Yeah,
it's out of the hands of the editor.
Crazy.
So, it was really exciting. But I had lived in the woods for a long time, so I was just taken aback by the whole thing.
And how much was cut from your manuscript?
Quite a bit. When I first wrote the short stories, it was 40,000 words, and that's half a book. As my agent's name is Russ Galen, and he's just familiar with all aspects of publishing. And he said, this is half a book. 40,000 words is not enough. You can't do short stories. He said, you've got to expand it to 80,000 words. And so I said, okay. And then I started writing, and it ended up being, I think it was 112,000 words. So I gave them this big, huge thing. And Gail kind of went, oh, my editor said, we're going to have to cut this back a little bit. And I said, but I can't cut it because every bird has their own story and you can't make me cut it. And she said, no, look, you've got to just realize that some of the stories might get, they were talking about the same thing, and what you don't put in this book, you could always write in another one.
Sequel.
The marketing department comes in. So,
What's been the least and the most fun of the whole process?
let's see. That's a hard one. The least fun, I would say, probably going over the copy edited part.
I didn't know that answer, but you have 96 simpatico people.
Well, by that time, I had gone over it a few times, and I was getting tired of reading that book. So, plus the fact I think different publishing houses probably have different rules, grammatical rules about how many commas you use and where you're supposed to put the semicolon. And there were times when I had just really labored over a sentence, and I tend to like my sentences run on. And I got the copy edited version back, and there's all these commas in it. It's like, I couldn't get through it. So it all works out in the end. I think the copy editor at HarperCollins, even though I don't know who she is, was a very, she caught some wonderful things. She gave me some ideas. I sent her back some notes. I think,
We had them all in a bunker in Pennsylvania. And one author I was working with, by the time the fourth revisions, final copy edit, the typeset galley, he said this felt like Groundhog Day. He had the book in his mail again.
Yeah.
It wears on you. It does.
Well, yeah. But I think one of the really fun things is there are going to be illustrations. When I first started working with my editor, I said, do you think HarperCollins would go for putting maybe pen and ink drawings on the end papers? Because there are a lot of people reading the book who don't know birds, and so they'd like to know what they look like, and maybe you could just do sort of a series of pen and inks with the names of the birds under them. And she said, well, do you have any ideas for the illustrator? And it turns out that I have you're a magician, aren't you?
I like her. My new title.
That's right, Mr. Magician. Yeah, here we go. This is Pancho, the parrot.
Well, I have one more idea then. We have like those laminated bird things, which I found after I read your book, and I was like, there's a grackle. I actually saw one of them in there. And
There you go.
I think it would be awesome if you did one of those fold-out things and sent that with the reader's copy.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
That's a really good idea.
So where are these going? Are they going at the chapter titles or?
No, as a matter, the sort of punchline to this is I have a friend who's a crow rehabber, funnily enough, and she's a professional artist. And I said to her, "Can you do these kinds of drawings?" She said, "I can do pencil drawings." And HarperCollins said, "Can you send us a couple of examples?" And she sent them 2, and they said, "We want 20." So, and she's so excited, she can't stand it. She's always wanted to illustrate for books, but it's really hard, to get in there. So